I am a 32-year-old software engineer from Boston. Growing up, my sister Sophia and I were inseparable, despite our 3-year age gap. We shared everything, supported each other through life's challenges, and always had each other's backs. So when I received the news that I was deliberately excluded from her wedding while everyone else in our family was invited, I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Instead of wallowing in rejection, I booked a solo trip to Bali seeking peace and healing. Little did I know that while I was finding my zen on a tropical island, her perfect wedding would completely fall apart. Before I tell you how my peaceful vacation turned into a family emergency, drop a comment letting me know if you have ever been excluded from something important, and subscribe to hear more family drama stories like mine. Sophia and I grew up in a modest suburban home in Massachusetts. Despite the 3-year age difference, we were incredibly close. I taught her how to ride a bike when she was 6, and she was my biggest cheerleader when I competed in science fairs. Our bond only strengthened through our teenage years when most siblings drift apart. When I left for college, she would call me twice a week to tell me about her high school drama and ask for advice about everything from calculus problems to boy troubles. After I graduated with my computer science degree and landed my first job in Boston, Sophia followed suit, attending the same university and eventually settling in Boston too. We lived just 15 minutes apart and maintained our weekly dinner tradition. She was pursuing her career as an interior designer, and I had just been promoted at my tech company. Life was good, and our family ties remained strong. Then James came into the picture. Sophia met him at a charity gala that her design firm had helped organize. He was tall, conventionally handsome, and exuded the confidence that comes with old money. Their relationship moved quickly. Within 3 months, he was all Sophia talked about during our dinners. James worked in finance, owned a penthouse downtown, and drove a car that cost more than my annual salary. While I was happy that Sophia seemed smitten, something about James never sat right with me. The first time I met him, he spent 20 minutes explaining why my choice of career was inferior to his. He spoke over Sophia multiple times, and I noticed how she seemed to shrink in his presence. Her usually vibrant personality dimmed. When I tried to discuss this with her later, she dismissed my concerns, saying I just needed to get to know him better. 6 months into their relationship, I overheard James on the phone at our parents' Thanksgiving dinner. He was clearly discussing some kind of business deal, using phrases like "they will never know" and "completely untraceable." When I casually asked him about it later, he became defensive and accused me of eavesdropping. That night ended with Sophia angrily telling me to mind my own business. As their relationship progressed over the next 2 years, I watched my vibrant, independent sister transform. She stopped pursuing the bigger design projects she had been excited about. She canceled our weekly dinners more often than not. When we did meet, James would frequently call with some emergency that required her immediate attention. My parents noticed the changes too, but adopted a do-not-rock-the-boat approach. "She is an adult," Harper, my mom, would say. "We cannot tell her who to love." My father was more blunt. "That guy is bad news, but pointing it out will only push her away." They were walking a tightrope, trying to stay connected to Sophia, while silently disapproving of James. When Sophia and James announced their engagement at a family dinner, I forced enthusiasm I did not feel. The ring was ostentatious, a diamond so large it looked uncomfortable on my sister's slender finger. She was smiling, but her eyes held a nervousness I could not quite place. That night, I hugged her extra tight and whispered, "I just want you to be happy." She gripped me back with surprising strength and said, "I am." But there was a question in her voice. Wedding planning began immediately. James insisted on a lavish affair at an exclusive coastal estate. At first, Sophia included me in some of the planning discussions. I even went with her to a couple of cake tastings when James was too busy to attend. I bit my tongue when she mentioned the astronomical budget James had set. After all, it was their money and their choice. Then the invitations went out to extended family. My cousin Sam texted me to ask about hotel recommendations near the venue. When I admitted I had not received my invitation yet, he awkwardly backtracked, assuming it was simply delayed in the mail. But a feeling of dread began to build in my stomach. 3 weeks before the wedding, our family gathered for dinner at my parents' house. Sophia seemed on edge all evening, checking her phone constantly and barely touching her food. After dessert, when I asked casually about my missing invitation, the table went silent. About that, Sophia finally said not meeting my eyes. James and I had to make some difficult decisions about the guest list. It is a very exclusive venue with limited capacity. I stared at her in disbelief. You are saying I am not invited to your wedding? It is not that simple, she whispered. James feels that. Well, given the tension between you two, it might be better this way. The revelation hit me like ice water. Let me get this straight. Your fiancé does not want me at the wedding, and you are okay with that. My father cleared his throat. Sophia, surely there is room for your only brother, my mother added. This does not feel right, sweetheart. But Sophia just shook her head. It is James' decision too, and he has already submitted the final list to the venue. I am sorry, Harper. Later, I cornered Sophia in the kitchen. Away from our parents, her composure cracked. Tears filled her eyes as I asked, Is this really what you want, to get married without your brother? You do not understand the pressure I am under, she whispered. James has very specific ideas about our wedding day, and I cannot fight him on this. Please understand. What I understand, I said quietly, is that you are choosing him over your family, over me. She flinched as if I had slapped her. That is not fair. None of this is fair, Sophia. But it is very revealing. The days after that dinner were a blur of hurt anger and disbelief. I cycled through emotions like a washing machine: rage at James for his manipulation, betrayal at Sophia's weakness, and a deep sadness that our once unbreakable bond had become so fragile. My friend Jake suggested I talk to someone professional, so I booked a session with a therapist. Dr. Marshall listened as I poured out my frustration. It feels like I am losing my sister, I confessed. And I do not know how to fight an enemy who has already convinced her I am the problem. You cannot control her choices, Dr. Marshall said gently, but you can control how you respond to them. That night, staring at my ceiling, I made a decision. If I was not welcome at this wedding, I would not sit at home feeling sorry for myself. I had vacation time saved up, and suddenly, the idea of being somewhere far away during the wedding weekend felt not just appealing, but necessary. I booked a trip to Bali, a place I had always wanted to visit. The spiritual culture, beautiful landscapes, and distance from Boston made it perfect. When I told my parents about my plans, they were concerned. Running away will not solve anything, my mother cautioned. I am not running away, I insisted. I am choosing to care for myself instead of sitting here stewing in rejection. My father squeezed my shoulder. We will call you after the wedding, let you know how it went. The weeks before my departure were awkward. My parents walked on eggshells, trying not to mention wedding details around me. Sophia texted occasionally superficial messages that carefully avoided any mention of her upcoming nuptials. I responded politely, but briefly. The night before my flight, I packed my bags, with a sense of grim determination. I included hiking gear, swimming trunks, and meditation books, but left my usual anxieties behind. As I set my out-of-office email response, I felt a weight lifting. For 2 weeks, I would disconnect from the family drama and focus on healing. Bali greeted me with warm air, scented with tropical flowers and incense. My resort was nestled between lush rice terraces and dense jungle, with a view of distant volcanic peaks. After checking in, I made a deliberate choice. I put my phone on airplane mode. No calls, no texts, no social media updates about the wedding I was excluded from. Digital Detox asked the smiling receptionist as I declined the Wi-Fi password. Something like that, I replied. The first few days were therapeutic in their simplicity. I woke with the sun swam in the infinity pool that seemed to merge with the green horizon and ate fresh fruit while watching monkeys play in nearby trees. Each hour that passed without thinking about Sophia and James felt like a small victory. At a group dinner organized by the resort, I met fellow travelers from around the world. There was a retired couple from Canada celebrating their 40th anniversary, a group of friends from Australia on their annual getaway, and Taylor, a photographer from California, working on a book about Balinese temples. "So, what brings you to Bali alone?" Taylor asked as we shared a table. I hesitated before answering. "Family complications. My sister is getting married today, actually." Without me there. Instead of the awkward sympathy I expected, Taylor nodded with understanding. Families are complicated. My brother and I did not speak for 3 years after a business disagreement. Sometimes distance gives perspective. That conversation was the first time I had spoken about the situation without feeling the sharp sting of rejection. Perhaps it was the distance or the company of strangers who had no preconceived notions about my family, but I felt a new peace settling over me. I filled my days with activities that nourished my soul. I hiked up mountains to watch the sunrise paint the sky in impossible colors. I learned meditation from a local guide who taught me to sit in silence for longer than I thought possible. I tasted exotic fruits and spicy dishes that expanded my culinary horizons. The day of Sophia's wedding arrived with less emotional turmoil than I had anticipated. I acknowledged the date allowed myself a moment of sadness for what should have been, and then committed to making it a day of joy for myself instead. I signed up for a cooking class where I learned to make traditional Balinese dishes, losing myself in the rhythm of chopping and the fragrance of lemongrass and galangal. That evening, there was a momentary weakness. Sitting on my balcony, as the sunset turned the sky crimson, I checked my phone briefly, wondering if anyone had messaged to say they missed my presence. There were a few texts from friends who knew the situation, offering support, but nothing from Sophia or my parents yet. I returned the phone to airplane mode, recommitting to my disconnection. Taylor and I had become fast friends, bonding over our shared love of photography and cultural experiences. When Taylor suggested a 3-day trek into the mountains to visit remote villages and ancient temples, I eagerly agreed. It would mean even more limited connectivity, as many areas had no cell service at all. "Sometimes getting lost is the best way to find yourself," Taylor said, as we packed our gear. The trek began at dawn. We followed our local guide Wayan up narrow paths that wound through terraced rice fields, glowing emerald in the morning light. The physical exertion felt purifying, sweat washing away, lingering resentment with each steep climb. By midday, we had reached a plateau overlooking valleys that stretched to the distant sea. While Taylor photographed butterflies landing on wildflowers, I found a flat rock perfect for meditation. Closing my eyes, feeling the sun warm on my face and a gentle breeze carrying unfamiliar bird songs, I experienced a moment of perfect contentment. For the first time in months, thoughts of Sophia James and the wedding did not occupy my mind at all. We spent that night in a small village where electricity was limited and internet non-existent. The simplicity was refreshing dinner by candlelight conversation instead of screens, sleep coming easily after a day of physical effort. The second day took us even higher to places where clouds drifted below us and the air thinned noticeably. On the afternoon of our third day, we descended to a slightly larger village that surprisingly had a small cafe with Wi-Fi. While waiting for our lunch, I decided to quickly check messages before returning to our trek. When my phone connected, it exploded with notifications. 27 missed calls, 43 text messages, multiple voicemails, all from my family, starting from about halfway through the wedding ceremony 2 days ago. With growing alarm, I opened the first text from my mother, wedding disaster. James arrested during ceremony. Sophia devastated. Please call as soon as possible. I scrolled frantically through the messages, piecing together the incredible story. Apparently, federal agents had interrupted the wedding just as vows were being exchanged. James was being investigated for investment fraud and money laundering. The exclusive wedding venue, the luxury cars, even Sophia's enormous diamond had all been purchased with stolen money. My father's text was more blunt. You were right about him. He is a criminal. Sophia needs you. I sat there stunned as Taylor returned from taking photos. You look like you have seen a ghost. My sister's wedding was raided by federal agents. Her fiancé was arrested for fraud. My family has been trying to reach me for 2 days. The vindication I might have expected to feel was completely overwhelmed by concern for Sophia. Whatever our differences, whatever poor choices she had made, she was still my sister, and she was in pain. I need to go back, I told Taylor, already mentally calculating the fastest route back to Boston. Of course you do, Taylor said, understanding immediately. Family first. The journey home was a blur of anxiety and logistical challenges. First, the 3-hour drive back to my resort. Then, hasty packing and arrangements for an early flight. The 20-plus hours of travel time felt endless, each minute stretching as I imagined my sister's humiliation and heartbreak. I called my parents from the airport in Dubai during my layover. My mother answered on the first ring, relief evident in her voice. Harper, thank goodness. We have been so worried. I am on my way home, I assured her. How is Sophia? My mother's voice cracked. Not good. She has barely left her room since it happened. The press has been relentless. James's victims included several prominent local families, so it is big news here. What exactly happened at the wedding? My father came on the line. They waited until the minister asked if anyone objected to the union. Then federal agents walked in and announced they had a warrant for James's arrest, right there in front of everyone. They put him in handcuffs and let him out past all the guests. Sophia collapsed. It was chaos. I felt sick imagining the scene. I will be there as soon as I can. When I finally arrived at my parents' house, exhausted and jet-lagged, Sophia was sitting on the living room couch, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders despite the warm weather. She looked small, diminished, her face pale and eyes red rimmed from crying. When she saw me, fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Harper, she whispered, her voice raw. You came back. I crossed the room and pulled her into a hug. Of course I came back. She clung to me, sobbing against my shoulder. I am so sorry. You were right about him. You were right all along, and I was too stupid to see it. You are not stupid, I said firmly. He manipulated everyone, not just you. Over the next few days, I learned the full extent of James's deception. He had been running a sophisticated Ponzi scheme, convincing wealthy individuals to invest in non-existent opportunities, then using their money to fund his lavish lifestyle and attract new victims. The authorities had been building a case for months. The wedding itself had been primarily funded by money stolen from an elderly couple's retirement fund. He isolated me from you because you were suspicious, Sophia told me, as we sat in the backyard away from the constant ringing of the house phone. He said you were jealous of our happiness, that you had always tried to control me. When I pushed back about inviting you to the wedding, he threatened to call it off entirely. I swallowed my anger. Why did you believe him? She wiped away tears. He was so convincing. He would twist everything, make me doubt my own memories and perceptions. It happened so gradually that I did not realize how much control I had given up until it was too late. Despite my hurt over the wedding exclusion, I found myself stepping into a protective role. I managed the practical aspects of the crisis that Sophia was too overwhelmed to handle, fielding calls from confused relatives, consulting with a lawyer about her legal position, screening the endless media inquiries. My parents were struggling too, blaming themselves for not intervening more forcefully. We saw the red flags, my mother admitted during a late-night kitchen conversation. But we were so afraid of pushing her away that we said nothing. We all made mistakes, I acknowledged. But right now, Sophia needs our support, not our judgment. As weeks turned into months, our family slowly began to heal. Sophia started therapy to process both the betrayal and the patterns that had made her vulnerable to James's manipulation. I attended some sessions with her where we addressed the hurt caused by my exclusion from the wedding. I was a coward, she admitted, during one particularly emotional session. I chose the path of least resistance because standing up to James was terrifying. I sacrificed our relationship to keep the peace with him, and I will regret that forever. Not forever, I corrected her. Just for as long as it takes to rebuild our trust. 6 months after the wedding that never was, Sophia found an apartment of her own and returned to her design career. The scandal had faded from the local news, though James's trial was still pending. We had reinstated our weekly dinners, this time with a new appreciation for the bond we had nearly lost. At one such dinner, as we shared dessert at our favorite restaurant, Sophia looked at me with clear eyes. I never thanked you properly for coming back when I needed you. After how I treated you, nobody would have blamed you for staying in Bali. I considered this. I was hurt and angry, I admitted. But under all that, you are still my sister. Family does not mean accepting mistreatment, but it does mean being willing to forgive and rebuild when there is genuine remorse and change. I am lucky to have you, she said simply. Yes, you are. I grinned, lightening the moment. That night, walking home under a star-filled sky, I reflected on the unexpected journey of the past year. I had learned that forgiveness is not a single moment, but a process that unfolds day by day. I had discovered that standing firm in my own worth did not mean giving up on people I loved when they made mistakes. Most importantly, I had realized that healthy boundaries and unconditional love can coexist. My phone buzzed with a text from Taylor, who had become a long-distance friend, sharing photos of new adventures around the world. We had plans to meet in Japan next year. Life was opening up in unexpected ways, proving once again that sometimes the most painful rejections lead to the most profound growth. Our family was stronger now, not despite the crisis, but because of how we had weathered it together. Sophia was reclaiming her independence. My parents were learning to be more direct with their concerns, and I was practicing the delicate balance of being supportive without being controlling. As I looked up at the vast night sky, I felt a sense of peace that had been missing for a long time. Family relationships are never perfect, always evolving. The key is not avoiding the difficult moments, but navigating them with honesty, compassion, and the courage to both hold boundaries and offer second chances. Have you ever had to forgive a family member who hurt you deeply? How did you balance setting boundaries with offering support? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Remember that even our most painful family experiences can become opportunities for growth and deeper connection. Thank you for listening, and I hope your own family journeys bring you both wisdom and peace.